Hi everybody, it's Tommy Jo from Bird Street Studio, and I'm here to do my rendition of Amy at Crafty Cat's 50 Stack Challenge 8. And Amy is Crafty Cat 7212 on YouTube and Crafty Cat 72 on Instagram. She also has an Etsy shop, and in most of the time when she does her 50 stack challenge, she uses digitals from her Etsy shop. So I would recommend that you hop over there and look at them. I've purchased quite a couple of her digitals and they're just beautiful. Anyways, for this week's challenge, it's week 6. Amy picked out prompt 11 was clock and prompt 12 was vintage lace. And when she first pulled those prompts, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so easy. Oh, no. They sure seem like easy prompts, but for this gal, they were a little bit more difficult to try to put together what I wanted to do, because y'all know that I don't create things that I don't think I will use in my journals. So I had to figure out what I was going to do that I could use in my journals. So I remembered that I had a postcard in my ephemera box, and it was a leftover piece from Louisa Heinzel's digital that I will try to remember to link it in the description box. This was a digital I purchased. It's one of the first ones of hers that I purchased many years ago, and it's based on ancient Rome. And I made a journal, and normally my journals would go in my Etsy shop, but this journal was, it was just so, I just fell in love with it and I had trouble parting with it. So it's mine and it's on my bookcase. And I ended up, my niece got married and was going to Italy, and I thought I would give her that journal, but I couldn't part with it, so I made her a new one. And so I still have mine. But on this digital, you'll notice that there's a piece of stone that resembles, I guess, a breast is the best way to put it. And it always kind of drove me crazy that was on there strategically. I don't know, maybe it is her breast, I don't know. But I thought for the prompt clock, we could use a clock face and maybe cover that. And then I wouldn't feel so uncomfortable. And I belong to the Digital Collage Club, and I am a lifetime member. And so having access, they have clock faces. So I printed a sheet out, and there's 2 of them that I thought might match that card. The one on the bottom left and the one on the bottom right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out and hold them up and try to decide which one I think would look best on this card. I don't have a circle punch that's large enough to cut them out, so I do need to cut them out by hand. But it's not difficult with these little Sizzix scissors. I think they're Sizzix scissors. They actually have kind of a curve to them, so it makes it easy when you're cutting round things. Oh, that looks really nice. And usually in challenges, when I create pieces, I usually don't put a lot of decoration on them because I don't know where they're going to go in a journal. I mean, for this piece in particular, when you see what we're going to do with it, for this piece in particular, it's got to go in a particular style of album. But I still don't want to add any more decoration than I need to, because that could alter when I put it in a journal. And I decide that I like that first one much better. So you saw me pointing to my little drawer. Over on the right hand side of me, I have a little Starite cabinet, and the top drawer is where I drop everything out of digitals that I don't use in my journals. And then I draw from that when I create other pieces of ephemera. So a while back in a Roxy's weekly challenge, Rachel had us create these hinged pages. And I wanted to recreate something similar to go in a journal. So I pulled this book page, and I knew that I would have to cut it down, but I noticed too that it's from the back of a book, of the actual book, so it's pretty heavy. It's almost like about as heavy as 3 pages put together. So I decide to change that out and pull a single page. When I first pull the book over, I go ahead, I want to take a page out of there, but if you notice it's held together by threads, that's because the page I'm pulling out is actually one page folded in half in the signature, and I make the decision that I don't want to rip that apart because I could use that in a journal signature. So I choose to use that single page that is right there, and I'm going to fold the margin and use that as our hinge. And my journal pages are 8.5 by 5.5. So I know that I need to cut this down. It's not going to go into a signature, but I need it to fit within those dimensions. So I want to kind of tear the edge off, the rough edge off that. And if you notice, this is pretty brittle paper, so a little bit more came off, but I'm going to embrace that imperfection. And then I think this measures the page length, measures like 7.5, and I'm going to take it down to about 7-ish. And here's where I decide to go ahead and get rid of that title at the top. And I already love it. The larger pieces of that book page I save because I will stamp on them, but the small ones I do get rid of. I used to save every little itty bitty piece because I used to sew them in a clump and make a cluster, but I have decided that I just can't store all of that, so I do make a decision about really small, thin or small pieces. I do recycle. And I am a distresser, as you know, so when and if I can, I do distress the edges of my ephemera. In this case, I think the distressing vintage photo is going to add to the ambiance of the piece. Being that it's ancient Rome, that means it is ancient, not just vintage. and I do want to make it look very aged. Okay, now what we want to do then is put the piece together. We want to glue our card. I don't highly embellish pieces that I make during challenges. So we'll embellish just a small amount to meet the prompt for this 50 stack challenge. But until I know exactly where I'm going to put this piece in a journal, I will limit the decorating. And I'm using my special glue, my tacky glue and my art glitter glue mixed together. And then I need a paper towel because that glue is pretty loose and I don't want it to seep out on everything. And it does seep out the bottom a little bit, but we get it, we handle it. And then we want to add our clock face on there, and I don't have to cut it down, but it is just paper. It's not cardstock that I printed it on. So I'm going to mark where I want it to go on the piece. And then I will cut that down on the edges to match the card, just because if it was cardstock, I could let it hang over and it would be sturdy enough that it wouldn't get harmed with use. But in this case, it is just paper, so I don't want it hanging over to get ripped. I'm just going to use my glue stick. Make sure my 12 o'clock is at the top. And I absolutely love it already. And then I do clip the edges, like I said. And I had rounded the corners on this card, so I kind of try to round the corner as I'm cutting the edges off. And then I actually am trying to decide, I want to make it a piece that we can journal on. But not knowing exactly how I'm going to put it in a journal, I need to just make like a basic decision. And I have these coffee dyed strips in my neutral scraps. And I decide to tear this piece into 3 pieces, I think they're about 3.5 inches, a little over 3.5 inches. And as usual, I misplaced my tear ruler. I always do that. And it's clear. Add that to the mix. Makes it even harder to find. And here's where I kind of changed my mind. I'm not sure that I want to put those pieces on the back of this piece, so I end up trying to put them on the inside. But I don't want the piece to stick out beyond where the card is, because I want you to be able to see a little bit of the text beyond the card. And now we have some writing space in there. And I'm trying to make a decision of whether I want to add paper or something to the back. I could add more coffee dyed paper or, my standby craft, but I make the decision not to add anything to the back of it. And I will make that decision when I go to put it in a piece in a journal, and I'll decide where it's going to go and whether I should add something to the back of that. So that's our first prompt, which is number 11, clock. And I found these words in my ephemera box, and I thought they fit. They had to do with time, seize the moment, carpe diem, and live in the moment. Anyways, I decided not to use the carpe diem on it, even though I thought it was nice. I think we'll just leave it with live in the moment, and I think that it's a beautiful piece. Okay, now we are on to prompt 12. And what I decided for prompt 12 is I'm collecting stuff to make another music journal. And so I thought I could make a piece of ephemera, either a belly band or a card or something to go in this music journal. And we could just add it to the pocket. So here I'm just pulling out some of the different pieces that I have. And this was a piece that I made in there out of an envelope. It actually goes in a signature, and there's a pocket on the left side, and then on the opposite side there's another pocket. And that's why it is totally covered in music paper, because you'll see every side of it. So I pulled out these little pockets that I made and left blank, and decided that I might want to use one of those. And what I think I'm going to do is, remember, a prompt is vintage lace. And so I'm going to end up doing a collage and then picking lace. I've got this lace. I actually bought a box of it, so I have a lot of it. So I pick out some papers that I want to collage with. And I specifically love that little piece that's laying on that pocket right now. Here I show you where I got some water damage. That's what happens when you print with an inkjet printer and it gets wet. I don't know if I spilled coffee, and then I don't know if it did that. It's kind of a pretty color, that green that it turns into. Anyways, I think what I'll do is maybe fast forward here through the collage process until we get to the decorating part where we add our lace. Okay, so sorry for the shadows. I had to turn the light on. It was getting kind of dark in here. Um, but this piece, I've got it all collaged and trimmed. And now I'm thinking that we need to punch a thumb notch. And I can't remember what I used to punch it originally. So I'm starting with my 1.5-inch circle punch, and I'll look at that and see if that's the one, if it looks like that's the one I used. And I know that you can't see it, but I can see through the hole to see if it lines up. And I decide that that's not, and that I probably used my tab punch. So I am going to use that to recreate the thumb notch that was originally there that we covered up with the collage. And I think it turned out really nice. Now I'm not going to make a tag or anything to go in this piece because, again, I don't know where it's going to go in the signature of a music journal. I'm not really sure what direction that journal will take, so I will hold off making any kind of tags or put any pieces in. But the back is blank, so it will get glued down on a page, and then you just pull it up and you can tuck things in those pockets. And now, since this prompt was actually vintage lace, we need to introduce our lace and a slight decoration that will keep it music themed, but not any more than that at this point. And I've collected a lot of pieces. Well, I made a music journal prior to this, so these are some leftover pieces. But I absolutely love this. I don't know if it's like ribbon or what it is, but it's actually notes and the G clef, treble clef. And I thought it would be perfect if we added a piece of lace to go under that piece of ribbon. Sorry, I think I hit the camera with my hand. Actually, it's my phone, but I think I hit it with my hand. So it shakes everything because it's mounted on the table. But I ended up just cutting off a piece of this lace. And we're going to put that underneath that black ribbon, but I'm not really sure where I want to put it on this piece. And I like it there, so we're going to go ahead and trim off that black. I call it ribbon. I don't know if it's ribbon or edging of some sort. And we need to trim out this lace as well to fit on there. And then I picked up my dauber thinking that I could put a little bit of Vintage Photo Distress ink on there to distress the lace a little, and realized I needed to use the pad probably to add a little bit of vintage distress on there. And I love it. And because it's fabric, we're going to use our Fabri-Tac. And then I wasn't really sure how to add glue to this, so I'm just going to dab it in solid pieces on this edging or lace, whatever it's called. And then some on the staff lines. And hopefully that'll be enough to hold it onto the lace. It should be. Fabri-Tac's a pretty sturdy glue. And again, my point here is to just embellish this and create a piece that will go in a music journal. I'm not really sure what I want to add to it. I mean, do I want to put flower on it? Do I want to put butterfly on it? Do I want to put a moth on it? I'm not really sure. And until I put it in the journal and know where it's going to go, what digital I'm going to use, I mean, I really won't know how I want it decorated. So I want to keep it pretty simple. I know it needs a little something else, but I'm not sure what, and I don't want to go overboard like I would love to do. But here's where I decide to go just a little bit overboard. Not a lot. So I pull out my ephemera box and I start looking for like a label or something that I think will fit on there. And I try a couple of different labels, but some of the writing you can read, and I'm not sure if this is the one, but one has like all these bugs listed on it and that. So I decided I definitely don't want to use something that has something written on it that you can distinguish and it doesn't match the journal at all. And so I end up seeing these numbers and I fell in love with it. So that's what's going to go on there. There is a little bit of a white on there, so I do trim that off before I glue it down and distress it and glue it down. I'm going to guess that if I had just distressed it with that little tiny bit of white that was on there, it would have covered it. But and I use my Fabri-Tac because it is going to lay on top of that lace. And then these are our two pieces for this week, week 6 of the 50 Stack Challenge 8, hosted by Amy. For prompt 11 was clock, and we made this piece of ephemera for journaling, like a hinged piece. We can hook it on a page, or it can go behind a belly band or something. And then for vintage lace, we made this double pocket that can go in a music journal by collaging the front, adding our vintage lace, and doing some really minor decorating. So there you go. So I want to thank you to all my subscribers, past, present, and future. And like I say in the videos, if you have a chance to like creators' videos when you first go in to watch them, please do that. That way you won't forget to like them at the end. Anyways, have a great day, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.